Keyboard Magazine published an article of mine in their 2011 October issue about forward motion fingerings. As part of that article, I discussed quiet hands because most of the students that come to me, a large number of them anyway, seem to think there's such a thing as jazz technique. And they overplay the instrument, they use excessive body motion. Sometimes they even have a stance, you know, an attitude towards the piano. And it is a challenge for me to quiet them down physically, because what they're doing is using large muscles to play an instrument that actually requires very fine muscles. And we are athletes of the fine muscles, not large ones. And the problem with large muscle association with playing is that it makes your touch dark and heavy and your technique much slower. I also get quite a number of students who have extensive classical training and think somehow that that doesn't apply to playing the piano. Well, there's not jazz technique, there's just technique. I myself, after a while of trying to build up my own technique, studied with Madame Shelloff in Boston for a good 6 years, and she straightened my hands out, and I've been using her technique ever since. So having a thorough grounding on on classical technique is really going to be helpful. And if you haven't ever had a classical technique teacher, there's probably going to be a time in your career where you're going to have to put your jazz studies aside for a couple of years and spend it with a good technique teacher to make sure you're using your body in the correct way in order to get the most out of the instrument. One of the things I talked about in that article was quiet hands. What I'm going to do is put a quarter on my hand and play a well-known jazz head that's somewhat of a finger buster, maintaining the correct hand position. Actually putting the quarter on your hand in order to keep it there puts you in automatically in the correct hand position. It's interesting that this hand position was something I learned many years ago when I was having a particular problem of sitting at the proper height. The proper height for sitting at the piano is your elbow is in line with the keys. If it's above it, you're going to get upper body weight on it. If it's too low, you're going to get forearm weight on it. The body is made up of weights and levers, and you have to position the weights and levers in such a way that all of your weight doesn't come down through the skeletal structure onto the keyboard. When I went to, I think it was called the Roosevelt Institute, or it was the Institute at the Roosevelt Hospital, I don't remember what it was, which offered therapy for musicians. They told me the proper hand position was the one you get when you just hang your hand by your side. So, hanging my hand by the side, I will put a quarter on it and play without dropping it. Any questions?